Hey everyone, this is your weekly work for next week, February 12th through 15th. You're going to be using this video to fill in this week's daily logs and taking notes on the back. Alright, this week's objective. Your objective is to write a clear and focused persuasive essay. Your next objective is I can synthesize, paraphrase, summarize, analyze, and evaluate a piece of writing. Pause here if you need more time for the objectives. For this week's vocabulary, we have the following words: evaluate, elaborate, analyze, position, persuasive, paraphrase, summarize, pros and cons. Here are the vocab words again. Please write these words down. We will be looking for the definitions this week. Pause if you need more time for vocabulary. This week's assignments. Monday you have no school. I hope you have a very nice day off. Tuesday, you're going to be turning in this daily log and the mini lessons notes that come on the back. In class, we're going to be working on pages 55 to 61 in our Casey book. So if you're not there, know that that's what we're doing. Wednesday in class, we're going to be working on Mastery Test 2 and grading it in class. It's important for you to be there that day because you get to see how you would have done if that were a test and get feedback on your test. Thursday is a really important day for you to be there because you have a quiz. If you are not there on Thursday, you will miss that quiz. In order to prepare for your quiz, you will be studying Chapter 3. When you go home Thursday night, you have homework. You're going to watch a writing lesson video and take notes on it. Friday, you'll turn in this writing lesson notes. Friday, you also have an in-class persuasive essay, and your homework over the weekend will be to watch the next weekly work video and take notes. This will all be completed by next Tuesday the 19th. Pause here if you need time to write this down. Set a goal for this week. It's really important we have goals, and so I'd like you to set a goal in the goal setting section. Pause here if you need more time. Here's your mini lesson today. These notes are going to go on the back of your daily log where it says mini lesson notes, and you're going to fill it in as reading comprehension. One of the big things we're going to look at with reading comprehension, we're going to look at a few different concepts. We're going to look at summarizing, paraphrasing, synthesizing, evaluating, analyzing, and elaborating. These are the major components of reading comprehension. Summarizing. Here's what you do. Summarizing is the condensing the author's words or ideas without altering the meaning or providing interpretation. Use your own words for this, basically presenting the original information in a nutshell. If I asked you to summarize a novel for me, you wouldn't restate the entire novel. You would give me 1 or 2 paragraphs about the novel. In order to do this, you're going to identify the main points. Condense, which means to make smaller, the main points without losing the essence or the main ideas in the material. Use your own words. If you're uncertain of synonyms or awkward, look for it. Keep your summary short and do not plagiarize. Do not use the same words as the original author. Let's try it. Here's our original passage. By 1964, there were an estimated 33,500 restaurants in the United States calling themselves drive-ins, but only 24,500 offered hot food, the remainder being ice cream and soft drink stands primarily. Layout varied from drive-in to drive-in, but 3 principal spaces could always be found: a canopy-covered driveway adjacent to the building, a kitchen, and a car hop station, linking kitchen and parking lot. The smallest drive-ins offered car hop service only, but many also featured indoor lunch counters and booths, sometimes on the scale of a coffee shop. If I were going to summarize this, I would take out some of the main points and restate them in my own words. Here's my summary. By the mid-1960s, nearly 35,000 self-proclaimed drive-in restaurants in the United States existed. Most served hot meals, while others served just ice cream and soft drinks. No specific blueprint defined the typical drive-in. However, 3 characteristics describe this new type of casual eating establishment: a covered driveway, a kitchen, and a car hop station. I've essentially taken the same information, but I've condensed it or taken less of it and pulled out just the main points. I've also stated it in my own words. This is the key to summarizing: stating in your own words and just taking the main ideas. Paraphrasing is different than summarizing. Paraphrasing is when you're restating in your own words the author's words or ideas without really changing the meaning or providing interpretation. They're about the same length as the original. So you'll notice with the first one, with summarizing, there was probably 10 sentences in there, and my summary ended up being about 5. With paraphrasing, if the original is 10 sentences, your paraphrase is 10 sentences. How do you paraphrase? Say what the source says, but no more. Reproduce the source's order of ideas and emphasis. Use your own words and paraphrasing to restate the message. Read over your sentences to make sure they make sense. Don't distort the source's meaning. Expect your material to be as long as the original, and do not plagiarize. Remember, the key to plagiarizing is the same information but in your own words. Let's try it. Here's the original passage. Annie Oakley's life spanned years of tremendous change for American women. By the time of her death in 1926, Americans were celebrating the liberated, urban-focused modern times of the Jazz Age. Women had won the right to vote, wore less restrictive clothing, and followed a changing ideal that was loosening some of the restrictions on women's role and behavior that had reigned through the 19th century. I want to put this in my words for paraphrasing. I'm going to have the same amount of sentences and the same amount of details. Here's what I did. Sharpshooter Annie Oakley lived through a period of many liberating changes for women, from the Victorian era through the first quarter of the 20th century. Examples include voting rights for women, as well as freedom to wear comfortable and practical clothing. I've changed these in my words, yet they still have the same level of detail. Synthesizing. Synthesizing is when I connect information within and across text. The idea with synthesizing is that you take multiple texts and you find the relationship within those texts. Multiple texts or one text, and find the relationship amongst ideas. So for instance, you're going to identify how ideas are related. So you might have 2 stories that you can compare and contrast. You might have one story that's a problem-solution story. This is synthesizing. Here are the idea relationships that we find in text. Cause and effect. This is what explains what happens and why it happens. It'll give the, it'll say something like there'll be global warming and what the effect has been of global warming. Compare and contrast. This explains how ideas are like and different. So this might be, I might compare one person's theory of environmental protection to another person's theory of environmental protection. Or I might have compare the story, Martin Luther King's speech, to the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. We're going to compare and contrast them. Sequential text. This is when a text explains ideas in a logical order or sequence. When you tell what happens first, what happens next, and goes in a sequential order. Problem and solution. This is when a text shows the cause and the effect, or the problem and then the solution of it. And a descriptive text. It describes an idea or event. Elaborate. Here's the next one. Is when we extend ideas and we make connections. You guys have been doing this with Speak for the last couple of weeks. I keep asking you to make a personal connection, make a prediction. This is essentially elaborating. How do you elaborate? You connect with your prior knowledge, you connect to personal experiences, or you make a prediction about what you think will happen. Evaluate. To evaluate, you're going to determine the value of the text and the credibility of the author. We've worked on this. This is back when we did a poverty module last year. You did the Going for the Look module this year. We had to evaluate the credibility of the author. How believable is our author? How do you evaluate? You ask yourself the following questions. Does the author appeal to emotion, or do they use mostly facts? How believable is the author? What background does the author have in this subject? What is the author's intended purpose? These are all things we want to ask ourselves when we look at an article or a story. When we see an article and it's mostly appealing to our emotion without very little fact, I don't know if we can believe it as well as we can that has facts and cites their facts. If you have a doctor that's talking about a weight loss treatment versus a celebrity, the doctor is going to be more credible, more believable. So that's what we have to evaluate, how believable these stories or articles are. If you have any questions about this, we will be continuing to discuss this in class, but I want you to write them at the bottom of your notes. We are going to be practicing this information this week, so you need to know these things. Figure out if you have any confusion and identify what you're confused about and ask a question. If you have any questions, you're welcome to go back through the video and look at the notes again. Have a nice day, everybody.